How you doing, guys? It's Alessandro here from Spicymoustache with some new tips in order to help you creating your own green space outdoor or indoor. If you have a green thumb but minimal space, why not creating your own mini world full of lush and beautiful plants in your own terrarium? Similar to a ship in a bottle, a terrarium could be a fascinating centerpiece, and it's also a little easier to do. This is a nice little experiment to teach you about plants, closed environment, and while it is growing, you can also understand the life cycle of a plant. Terrariums are easy to make, low maintenance gardens, and they can last almost indefinitely with a minimal amount of water. If you are in the southern hemisphere, remember that having plants around, it's a great way to keep the winter blues away. But let's get straight into this, dig up the like button, and I'll show you how to make your own garden in a bottle. But let's talk about history. In Victorian times, renowned London physician Nathaniel Bradshaw Ward was pursuing a passion for botany and conducting an experiment with moths, when he discovered that he could cultivate rare ferns inside a bottle. This led him to develop a glass vessel to nurturing imported plants. In fact, the Wardian case is the predecessor of the terrarium. It found great use in the 19th century when foreign plants were imported from overseas to Europe. The great majority of these plants had previously died because of the exposure during the long journeys overseas. A terrarium has a base of gravel, charcoal, moss and soil and supports a miniature garden of moisture-loving plants. The plants draw moisture through the soil and evaporate it through the leaves, in a process known as transpiration. Water droplets form and drip down the sides of the container, creating condensation and returning to the soil. This process mimics nature's rain cycle and sustains plants' life. The oldest one is claimed to be grown by David Latimer of England in 1960. He planted a single Tradescantia cutting inside a glass bottle, and he last opened it in 1972 when he added just a tiny bit of water and he then sealed it to never be reopened. This is why it's said that terrarium could potentially thrive and sustain themselves for an indefinite amount of time. There are also other kind of life forms that you could potentially find or add to your terrarium. Springtails are the perfect compromise for someone who wants the mold-fighting, terrarium cleaning dream team, without having giant bugs crawling all over the place. These tiny critters are really more jumpers than they are crawlers, as it hence the name. Springtails are detritivores, which means they love to feed on dead organic matter. This makes them perfect for any dead leaves or roots that you have missed before they start rotting and causing problems to your terrarium. Their second favorite food is fungi, so in the absence of any mushrooms, they're gonna start feeding on the most abundant source, mold. Isopod, it's another living thing that you could potentially add to your terrarium. They go by many names. You may know them as peelbugs, roly-poly, doodlebugs, or the old-fashioned wood lice in UK. They are much larger than springtails, so I guess they are more for the bug enthusiasts. Just like springtails, isopods will readily feed on decaying organic matter, and they will keep your terrarium clean and fertile. However, you should keep an eye on them, because they are known to feed on plants in the absence of decaying organic matter. Sadly, they don't feed on fungi, so they won't be effective in reducing the amount of mold inside your terrarium. One important thing to note about isopods is that they need a high humidity environment to survive. They don't have lungs per se. Instead, they breathe through gill-like structures underneath their armor. Worms are fantastic at aerating the soil and reaching areas that other insects won't. The only real issue is their size, and also they could be a bit of a mess around the glass of your terrarium. For larger sized terrariums, there is a value in adding 1 or 2 earthworms. To assemble your terrarium, it's a really easy and fun process. You could buy a pre-made kit or recycle one of your old glass bottles and source all the material from the local park, woods, or an area around you with loads of vegetation. I received this kit for Christmas and I was super excited about showing to everyone how to set it up. Also, you can find the link in the description of the video if you would like to buy your own. It comes with complete instructions and you can get it disassembled or already set up. But I personally think it's way more fun to get it disassembled, so you can place all the elements as you like. You will have to layer a base of rocks, gravel, or like in this case I'm using a mix of compost and activated charcoal. I recommend to use gloves if you don't want to get your hands dirty. Make some holes in your compost wherever you would like to add your plants to the terrarium. You can plan this by imagining a small scale landscape or taking some inspiration from the web. Now place firmly the plants you have selected inside the holes that you made for them and press gently around the base so you can compact the soil. Once you're happy about the arrangement of your plants, you can start placing your moss around your terrarium. A quick tip about moss: if you picked it from the local park or woods, just make sure that you pick it from the center and not the borders of its growth. It will be easier for the moss to regrow middle parts, and also don't leave it uncovered because that was the house for many insects, so just cover it with some grass to offer some protection. Now use a tissue to clean the excess compost from the borders of the inner glass. It won't require any extra watering as we discussed before, and now you can place back your cork lid and move your jar in an indirect light position. If you notice that there is too much condensation inside your jar, you can open the lid to release it, and you can turn it occasionally. I think this was one of my favorite projects, and it's absolutely worth it to start your own small ecosystem. It will teach you a lot about plants and how they work, and how they can sustain themselves without adding water or nutrients. In nature, whenever there is no human activity interfering, nothing goes to waste. Everything is reused by plants, soil, insects or animals. This is also a small-scale project of what I'm trying to do in my garden, which means that I'm trying to improve the bacteria activity and not use any chemical, but instead cooperate with nature. So I hope you liked today's video, and if so, please subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification settings so you can be notified every time I post a new video. I'll see you next week on Friday for another episode. Thank you very much for watching. See ya!